one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in HEX on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call HEX, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast. I am Broke Boi Crypto, and I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We have got quite the show for you tonight. We got a lot to talk about. We got Elon, and we're broadcasting on that platform. So I want to give a shout out to the X platform here tonight. We got our show on over there. We're on the YouTubes, of course, as well. We've got FOMC to talk about tonight, a 25-point rate hike, which the market was largely expecting. You can kind of see that in the price action or lack thereof. If you're watching on YouTube, you saw the thumbnail, obviously. We're going to talk about WorldCoin. It's taken the crypto market by storm. I can't wait to get into this. WorldCoin or PulseChain? Which one are you more comfortable investing in? We'll get to that here in a few minutes here tonight. But Ewok, first off, how you feeling? How you doing here on this Wednesday evening?
Doing great, man. Another Wednesday through the markets, up and downs. All the, it's just crazy. So much happening. Good, bad, all over the place. It's just, I think there's a lot of happening. People are getting bored, but there's a lot going on if you're really paying attention.
I think people are definitely getting bored with the lack of tons of price action. But yeah, in terms of things happening to kind of shape this market, and as the scams reveal themselves here for the coming bull cycle, which we'll talk a little bit about tonight, as well as the treasures, there's a lot to get to. So if you are heading on into the stream, hit the like. We very much appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I guess we can start off right now with where BTC and ETH are. We'll kind of coincide this with what we got from the Fed today with FOMC, because again, 25-point rate hike. BTC and ETH, the rest of the market, really not moving a whole lot. Now, we're only 6 hours on from the announcement. So, we've seen plenty of times where over the course of the next week, or at least the coming days after a Fed announcement, we'll see some kind of definitive action. But not very much today, even with some interesting quotes from Jerome Powell from the Fed, which we'll get to too, which are probably a little bit more hawkish sounding than the actual rate hike itself. But not a lot of reaction here by the market, despite a bunch of trader accounts that are trying to win influence or, people paying for their service, saying that this was the biggest trading day of the year and all this horse shit today I saw. We don't have much action going on. So, Ewok, what do you... Now, let's just first get to the actual FOMC, because there's no real price action.
Yeah.
And then actually, you know what? Let me just cover the pulse prices. So we saw a bit of a dip last week, a recovery over the last couple days here for the PulseChain ecosystem as well. Pulse is sitting right around the SAC rate even, which is good. We got Pulse X still at that deep discount at 69% off right now. Hex combined on both chains still sitting right around that 3 cent mark, with Hex on a Pulse chain with about a 2-to-1 ratio there. I just bought Pulse and Pulse X last night, actually, so happy to do that.
Good job.
But the FOMC today, market strongly expected that 25-point hike. Things were dumping on Monday throughout most of crypto. They do the 25-point hike. The thing that was a little bit more interesting that I heard, I didn't really watch any of this because, it gets boring, but Powell said that they're going to contemplate additional firming to curb inflation. The market doesn't react much again as for now, but Powell says he does not see inflation back to 2% until 2025, which actually was probably the most, I don't know if you want to call it hawkish, but negative sounding thing. Kind of gets people worrying a little bit. How long are they going to be doing this? Will there be more rate hikes next year? Who knows? anyway, what do you make of their decision, Ewok? What do you think they do the rest of the year?
Man, I haven't been following the FOMC stuff, so I mean, it's only speculation. In my opinion, would be I don't think they're going to raise it more this year. I think they're going to slow play this, which could in turn, cause a little bit longer of a bearish market type thing. We could go into late this year even. I originally had thought, by August, September, we could see a nice little turnaround of events, but this could push it into, December, January, maybe even February at this point, if they slow play it like I thought they would. I thought they would have, at least started lowering them by then, but they may just leave it and not do anything until they start to see the results that they intended a little bit better. Just my opinion, but I think it's going to be a little extended this time of a bear market, and the bull market could be a little accelerated. I think once they turn those money printers back on, look out, it could go quickly. And now is the accumulation. Right now is when you want to be accumulating. If you're planning for your future, now's the time to be doing what you want to do and get set up, because like I said, this bear market could be delayed. Bull market could be accelerated in such a, it's already, bull markets are already compacted into, we saw it we talked about this 2 weeks ago or so, how short of a period the actual run up actually does happen. And, it could be even shorter this time, depending on how these markets go. So.
Yeah, I think there's some validity to that. And yeah, we did talk about that just last week or the week prior about how short of an opportunity and how little of a window at the top of the bull market you really have to scale out of your positions and to have a plan right now. Even though we are, like you said, Ewok, I definitely think we're firmly in the accumulation phase and people should be doing every single thing they can to try to DCA into this market right now. But it is interesting what you're saying about how they're slow playing this. We've already heard sentiment from the Fed before that this may very well be the last rate hike of 2023 anyway. There's a couple of more meetings. I think there's one at the beginning of October and then one in December after that. I think that may actually be it. I could be totally wrong. I'll have to pull that up. There's at least two more, maybe three. But I know that they have talked before about not doing any more the rest of this year and then kind of seeing where we're at. The rate that we are at now for interest rates is the highest we've seen in 22 years. So we're already, it's not a precedent, but it's definitely high. So, this is something we haven't seen for quite some time. Powell has already talked about in 2024, possibly still increasing rates at some time there. But I think you're right. I think they're clearly slow playing this. They paused the last time around. They do the modest hike this time around. So, yeah, we could see this extend a little more. But as we've seen in the past, especially with crypto, I mean, Bitcoin is already about and has been 2x up off of the lows from November of 2022. I think at some point, we've talked about this, the cycles just play out, and they go and they move. Will the 4-year cycle be as set in stone as it is right now forever? I don't know. That's just something we'll have to see. But so far, I mean, things got slightly more bullish and started to turn around when things were still macro and are still macro pretty rough. And again, the price action has turned around. So, yeah, I think there's something to what you're saying there. And there's been so many ideas about what we'll see this cycle as far as when things really get bullish. We talked a couple of weeks ago about Bob Lucas with the left translated cycle idea and seeing a more modest, quicker top for Bitcoin, like an 80-ish K about a year from now. And then it's settling down and then really blowing off again in like 2026, which would not be the normal thing. But most people out there are still expecting, hey, year after the halvening or whatever, 2025, 120, 140K Bitcoin is definitely coming. And I don't want to plan that way, but we've talked about it before, Ewok. But what do you think of those scenarios, especially with the adverse macro situation we're in right now and the whole ETF thing coming? What do you think of those couple scenarios for this cycle?
Well, those are a lot of loaded questions.
I want you to answer them in detail.
Yeah, I think, I still stick to my what I had said, between 120 and 135 is where my top still lies. Again, I think once the money printers get turned back on, things will take off, and the ETFs, as far as quick term price, I think it's going to be bullish for it. As far as long term price, though, I think it could hurt it. I really do. Look at
Hmm.
how gold. Look what happened to gold after those ETFs and those things started to come into play. Hasn't done a whole lot, and it's kind of been a pitiful chart. So that's just my take on how that plays out for Bitcoin. But like I said, as far as the markets go, I don't know how extended they'll be. Maybe this one's a little bit longer, the next one's a little shorter. It always has a weird way of working itself back out.
Yeah.
And that could very well happen in these markets too. So I still think we stick pretty close to that 4-year cycle. And even if it goes a little bit longer, like I said, the next cycle may go a little shorter. But I think it'll work itself back out.
Yeah, I think you've got to, just because of the past, really rely on, not rely necessarily, but keep the 4-year cycle in mind. But the best thing of all out of these scenarios that we're talking about in this upcoming cycle is be prepared for either scenario.
Mhm.
And either way, that shouldn't change too much what you're doing right now. Like you said a
Nope.
moment ago, Ewok, it's accumulation time. We want to be buying right now, regardless. And then we'll worry about the rest when it starts to get bullish. So,
Exactly.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see what else the Fed has in store, but at least they did do what the entire market thought they were going to do, and we haven't seen too much movement. So we'll keep an eye on that stuff. Speaking of the Fed, FEDNOW officially launches just about a week ago. Mainly crickets. I don't really know where it's being used or anything like that, really. But if you're new to what FedNow is, it's basically the introduction to some kind of CBDC here in the United States of America, basically a payment system that you can rely on. Are you being surveilled or are you not? That's really the biggest question. I don't know how much of a question it really is, but basically it's a way of getting your payments, sending payments. If you get checks from Big Daddy government, and if you'd like to rely on him, you can get those checks. Instead of checks, you can actually get it through FedNow if you enter a bunch of information, and then they track everything you do. So that's what FedNow essentially is. Now, I have a question for you, Ewok, because the interesting thing about this is that obviously creator of PulseChain and Hex, Richard Hart, tweeted about FedNow last week. I think I have this thing bookmarked, and I'm going to go to it. I'll put it in the chat. And in my notes here, I put Richard Hart tweeting about FedNow, quote unquote, supporting it, a kind of surprising, positive sounding tweet. And, I shouldn't say tweet, X. I'm not sure what you would call these X notes. But yeah, obviously a lot of people are shitting on the idea of FedNow, and Richard Hart, I'll try to find it, but yeah, basically sounding like he didn't understand what people were talking about with the hate. So, what do you make
Right.
of that, Ewok?
I
As I
found
try to
it.
pull it up.
I found it.
Okay,
I'll actually read his tweet to you. It says FedNow released
go ahead.
today. The pushback against it is crazy to me. Why wouldn't you want them finishing moving your money faster? Did you really enjoy the delays? Rarely do governments make such obvious and useful improvements. Enjoy them when you find them. So I think what he's talking about is the actual finalization of payment, sending it a lot faster. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we are all tying it into the next step. So I think there's probably more than one step. He's only talking about the settlement layer of the first step, and that is actually being able to send money a lot faster. However, that being said, I think it does all tie into the CBDCs down the road, as they switch over from your digital dollars into your bank account into these tokens or coins or whatever they may end up being. Um, and that's the part where everyone's shitting on it and thinks it's a horrible segue into that whole CBDC realm, which I kind of agree with. Now, if the banks can do something a little bit faster and transfer money faster, because normally, why does it take so long, to get money when you send it somewhere or do whatever. I do agree with that. If it makes it faster, then great. But I think everybody's tying it into, like I said, the adoption of the CBDCs, and we're all pretty against that. So yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. I hope we don't have to take both to get the one, but it could turn out to be that way eventually.
Yeah, I mean, Richard could definitely know something that we're not thinking of, or he's obviously an innovator. He is able to think outside the box. I mean, I was surprised by the tweet, and I guess it does make sense, as far as the settlement part of it. But I think, like you said, all of us inevitably are thinking about, what's the other shoe to drop, and none of us really want very much to do with it. So,
yeah,
I thought maybe his tweet was being a little bit tongue in cheek. I'm sure he would have more to say on it. It would be cool to get even more extensive thoughts from him. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know who's actually going to use this thing. I think once again, as soon as whatever student loan forgiveness stuff comes out, or some kind of hey, are you making below $15,000 a year and don't know how to tie your shoes? Well, here's $2,000. As soon as something like that comes out and they can get the money easily, we'll just have to see who uses it. So
I do want to read, just take a brief second to read the paragraph below what he said.
Yeah.
And it does say what my mic's in the way. What differentiates FedNow from other payment rails is that it's specifically designed to support instant retail payments. With such payments in mind, FedNow's most important feature is that it will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year round. And with FedNow, institutions will be able to clear and settle retail payments instantly at any time, including nights and weekends. So it goes on to talk a little bit more, but that's a great thing, right? Because when you do something in the bank, it's always been, before, so many business days. Well, weekends, if that's included, those don't count. So try to deposit a check late on a Friday, you don't see it until Monday. Hopefully this could fix that. So that could be a good thing. And, I think that's what he was kind of talking about as far as the settlement layer and the instant stuff. So anyway, that's enough on that. But
yeah, we'll see what else comes of it. Again, it was kind of unceremoniously launched. I mean, I can't imagine too many people were like ready to celebrate FedNow, but we'll kind of see what we do hear about it here in the coming months, what changes about it. But yeah, probably an intro to the old CBDC idea. So we'll see how that does go. That's going to bring us to this WorldCoin thing. So we're going to get into this pretty heavy. If you guys are here and enjoying the stream so far, hit the like. We very much appreciate it. We do this every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so WorldCoin. There may be some people joining the stream right now that have never even haven't heard this yet, but it kind of took most of crypto by storm on Monday. Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, which I'm sure many people are familiar with, he and another guy that I forget the name of were on with the Bankless Boys the other day, having a long time. Actually, it was just one of the Bankless Boys. I just went ahead and, believe it or not, I just listened to the entire debrief of the episode with both Bankless Boys. It was kind of a giddy fest, but I went ahead and listened to it and tried to understand everything I could. But essentially this thing, all right, so it's clear. We've already kind of had this happen at the beginning of 2023. With some of these AI coins. The one I heard about the most was this Fetch AI. There's other ones as well. I think Fetch AI had already been around for a while. I couldn't tell you anything about it really. But I think this may be the beginning of what may seem inevitable, that AI, which has, really kind of taken over the zeitgeist, if you will, lately, that really may be one of the focuses here in this bull cycle, as far as probably largely scams, obviously. So Sam Altman, these guys from WorldCoin, which not a good name. I'd put it right there with FedNow, actually. They call this proof of identity. Their vision is, whatever the vision is, okay, so this thing is heavily VC funded, which I have a list of all the VCs here somewhere. And there's just not going to be a way to invest in this thing and win. But more importantly, for a moment, let's talk about what this thing professes to do, basically. So there's this whole orb idea. We just saw a tweet from Watch Guru and a few other accounts, Watcher Guru, showing people, I think probably in San Francisco or something like that, standing in line to get their orb and have their eyes. I don't know all this lingo, but anyway, yeah. So basically, you get your identity, proof of your identity, and stuff like that, and then you get this airdrop apparently of WorldCoin. I'm not sure what happens after that, but we're gonna get into it a little bit more. I have some more details here, but what do you make of this so far, Ewok? And I'm going to put this tweet that we just had in the chat here because I want people to see this line of people here.
So the first thing is it's not available in the United States. So I highly doubt that was anywhere in the States.
Forgot about that.
So the reason it's not is because they, I think, are deeming it a security. Essentially, they know themselves that it can't pass. It would never pass or fly in the States. Because it is so heavily VC investors and all this other stuff. As far as that, it's a total, well, as far as I see it, a total surveillance coin. Not that we aren't already being surveilled. I mean, you have your Face ID on your phone, you have a driver's license that's got your picture. They know exactly who we are and where we go at all times, pretty much. Because you keep that phone on you, it is essentially a tracking device. Yeah. I don't want to get too conspiracy theory-ish, but it really is. Yeah. So this just opens that up to a whole new other level. The problem that I see with it is, where are they storing this information? I mean, who's going to have access to all of this stuff that keeps it secure? It really worries me that, these, and then who's to say that you are who you say you are? I mean, are they really coming to, once this gets widely used and people have these orbs or they go, who's to say that, it's not being manipulated some way? Because most technology usually gets manipulated in one way or another at some point. Who's to say that they're not stealing identities this way? I don't know if there's a complete retina scan or how it's done exactly, but it worries me. I think there's way too much information out there to put on the blockchain that's not needed. And then what good does it do? Like, I don't know that there's a use case for it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It seems to me like a big pile of dog shit, actually. Yes. I mean, on fire. It just seems, I don't know. I remember in the 2018, we had this whole plus token Ponzi thing going on. And it led everybody into false sense of bull markets here. Bitcoin went from, I don't know, 5,000-6,000, went all the way up to 14K. And then this Ponzi kind of erupted, and it plummeted back down to 3,500 at that point. I feel like this is kind of similar, but with the VC money, it may be a little bit different. I don't know if it's going to do exactly that or crash anything, but it just feels like that time of the market then, as right now, when this whole thing came out, was the first thing I thought was, oh, here's another plus token Ponzi. But again, I think it's a little bit different, but it just reminded me, it made me feel dirty.
Yeah, it definitely does. So let's get a little dirtier, actually. So I'm looking at a list of just some of the major backers of this. These are people that are major investors in WorldCoin. We've got Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's in there. We've got Gavin Wood. So he is the former CEO, whatever, creator of Polkadot, who is another kind of Davos type WEF, chain that essentially is, I think, going to be useless now. Three Arrows Capital. Not sure if you've heard of them. Let's see here. I think
aren't these all the people that lost money? Huge money, or the bankrupt people?
These are yes, that's who that is. Yeah, that's that Three Arrows Capital. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are some of just that's a few of many that are backing this thing. So,
And by the way, anything that Bankless
yes.
backs, I would just be very careful of. And I'm not sure why you were watching this stream unless you have something against your testosterone levels.
We all have our guilty pleasures, and sometimes I'm a little submissive, and I pour myself a glass of wine. But no, I just wanted to. I said this to you the other day. No, I said this to you the other day because you said I DM'd it to you, and I'm like, Bankless is dedicating a whole goddamn 2 podcasts to this thing, of course. And he's like, oh yeah, you are like, are you surprised? And I said, yes and no, because it's just so insane how bad this is. Mm-hmm. And they are just, it's kind of like the car wreck syndrome. You drive by a car wreck and you can't help but look at it. That's just basically what it is. But yeah, I listened to their Giggle Fest here on part 2 of the episode today and just heard them talk about it a little bit. And yeah, it's a flaming disaster, I believe. Oh, and most importantly, whenever the Sam Altman was directly asked about the financial backing of this, he dodged the question and wouldn't answer any of it. So
sure he did.
If you buy this thing eventually on the open market, which I'm sure there's going to be opportunity to do, just remember that millions upon millions upon millions of dollars are already in it, and they will definitely dump it on you at some point. So
yeah, at some point they will take their profits and dump the coin. I wouldn't be surprised, but again, I'm pretty sure unless you have a VPN or something to get around it, it's not even available in the States. I don't think you can even open up the white paper as far as that goes. You can't even access that in the States. So yeah. It's probably a good thing. See?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, good rule of thumb. Yeah, anything that's on Bankless, I would avoid, obviously. So yeah, Hex and PulseChain are scams to them, apparently. So let's turn our attention to the big story in media just in general this past week has been the Elon thing. Obviously, Twitter changing over to X, I guess. Very odd and awkward, happening pretty much overnight. As you've kind of had time to think about the game theory of this and what might be behind it, because it was such a kind of random, weird move out of nowhere. Although we know for a long time here that Elon has an affinity for the letter X, supposedly. Mm-hmm. Acquiring Twitter for Elon appeared to be really just a step in a bigger game, obviously. He's obviously got competition already with Mark Zuckerberg, literally fighting soon. I don't know when that is, but that'll be interesting. Zuckerberg's actually like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and Elon just started, so that'll be interesting. But potential competition with WorldCoin. There's all these AI things happening and ways to monetize it. There's rumors about is Elon going to use Doge as some kind of payment system for things that happen on X or whatever it's called. What do you make of all this? I mean, like, the acquisition of Twitter was one thing, and it was under the guise of like, I'm a free speech absolutist and all this stuff. I'm not saying he was lying or anything, but I have seen some curious remarks from him here and there regarding free speech and choosing what is free speech and things like that. So what do you make of this? What do you make of this change? His new CEO, that woman that I can't remember how to pronounce her last name, was Yakaro or whatever, was tweeting about it the other day, and it feels odd. But what do you think the bigger picture here is for Elon and X, and how do all these AI things kind of connect?
So if you've watched any of the history of Elon, he's always talked very, very highly of WeChat, which is a Chinese platform that they basically use for everything: phone, money, messages. It does everything, I think. And he's always been very fond of that. And I think that's kind of what he's trying to create with this, because we do know that he has money what is it? Money transmitter licenses that he's already PayPal. He's already got that stuff. Well, I think he secured other ones too, because PayPal actually kept what they had. He's secured new ones in order to be a money transmitter, which will tie into this probably at some point or another, whether he uses Doge or he does have a fondness for Hex.
He does,
according to his tweet. So that would be cool if he used Hex, but I will kind of doubt that he'll do that. But I kind of see that as his long-term play. I think he wants to create a platform that is a all-in-one, it does everything. So, I don't know. The name X, he has a space X. He's always talked about X being his, that's his thing. And then Zuckerberg has the patent on it, or the trademark to X anyway.
Right.
So that could get a little ugly here, but we'll see how it goes. I think all in all, he's trying to create a single platform. And he didn't buy a tweeting platform. He bought 400 million users for what he bought. So if this was his all along the goal, then I don't think it was a bad move. He got a lot of users out of it. I do like the fact that he has definitely opened up the free speech side of things, kind of turned the government in for what they were doing, manipulating, and the whole messing with the elections and people's information and hiding the truth from a lot of people. I'm definitely a fan of that. So I don't know. He gives a lot of mixed signals. It's kind of hard to decipher sometimes of what his game plan is, but I think that's what it is. I think he really wants another WeChat that he created to do the things that he wants it to see it do. So
yeah, it seems like he's definitely trying to rule the world here. So it's going to be interesting to see where all of this goes. Obviously, there is the free speech aspect to it, but then there's the AI aspect to it, and this is tying into crypto and how to monetize things. So yeah, I'd be I'm hard pressed to see what big theme there's going to be over this next cycle with crypto that doesn't have a big AI narrative. That just kind of seems to be where we're at right now, but who knows? I mean, like, there's going to be some interesting things invented, and 99% will definitely be scams you don't want to mess around with, but it'll be fun. So we'll see what does attract those people and retail back into the market. Let's turn our attention, though, and focus a little bit more on what we do recommend, what we do personally invest in, and what we're really here to talk about tonight, and that is PulseChain and Hex and Richard Hart. This ecosystem has had, I don't know how important this is, but has had some drama and stuff since PulseChain launched and things. People not, having very clear expectations that weren't meant because they were unrealistic to begin with. There's just been a lot going on, disagreements and things like that, people being over leveraged, and people just kind of losing sight, I think, of what Hex is to begin with, and the patience of investing in the T-share. I mean, we have talked about that. People are losing sight, I think, of what Richard Hart actually created from the beginning. And kudos to a lot of the people that have been streaming lately. Johnny Chaos is in the chat here tonight. The other day when he was on with Matty Allen at his shop, I thought that was a great stream. Like, you guys, I know you're just kind of riffing a little bit, but there was a lot of good stuff talking about the T-share, Hex, being patient. Crispy Man almost sounds like a guy who wouldn't even make that much of a difference to him if PulseChain even was out. I mean, he's constantly talking about how great Hex is and talking about rotating everything back into Hex and everything. I saw Brizology on with him the other night. It was really good. Gary, obviously. So there's just been a lot of people really, I love all this reinforcement of Hex right now, because I think that that's been lost with this PulseChain launch and everybody getting the shiny new toy syndrome, which is to be expected. And, they're upset because PulseX doesn't have the single-sided staking yet and all this. But people are going to come back to this market, and they're going to come to this ecosystem because, after all, with the dips in this market, with how volatile it is, people will always be searching for yield, and nothing has been created that's better than Hex. So I think people are going to come back to that.
Yeah.
All this being said, this big tweet from Richard the other day, I think it was yesterday, actually. Good stuff. I don't want to call it a to-do list because obviously that creates expectations, but it's a big list of things that could potentially come to PulseChain or PulseX. I'll go ahead and share it in the chat. I don't know that we need to read the whole thing because it's pretty lengthy, Ewok, but what did you make of some of what he spoke about here? Talked about improvements to PulseChain, to PulseX, what to do with the bridge, a wallet potentially, all kinds of different things. It's a big tweet. So what did you make of some of what he said?
Well, I thought it was funny that some of the stuff already exists. and is being developed. One of the things that he mentioned was the on ramps, and we know the Coast team. I know we wanted to talk about this a little bit too. The Coast team is getting close. They've secured another bank in order to do that, but they will be the first on ramp and first stable coin on PulseChain. So that's getting really close. So that's exciting. He talks about devs, enterprises, retail adoption, and that's us. Like that's all of us. He's talking to the community and says, here, this is what you guys need to do. I don't know if it gives any expectations from him, but this is a lot of the things that he's kind of hinting to the community and say, here you go, guys, go nuts. He wants to see more development. He wants to see new things. Obviously he has talked about the single-sided staking, which the community can't really do on the platform. He has to be the one to kind of put that out there.
Right.
And the wallet is his baby too, because I know he has talked about that being pretty much done or being worked on even before PulseChain came out. So I don't know. I hope there's not another sacrifice and another coin or anything like that. I hope it uses the incentive token, which I think would be another good beneficial use for that coin. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see what all comes of it. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is already done, being worked on, and a lot of the community, it's still weird. We're at that weird space right now, a weird time where there is a lot of community. There's a lot of things coming out. And you get that couple different mentalities. Okay. You get the one that says, well, Richard said, build all this stuff, so we're building it. And then people get mad that we're creating it, and they don't like it because Richard didn't do it. But Richard, so we're in a really weird spot, because Richard's basically saying, hey guys, go build this stuff. And then the other people that follow Richard only are like, well, we're not going to support it because Richard didn't create it. So it's weird. And we almost have to, I still feel that we have to embrace these new people. If you don't want to support it, that's fine. But I don't think we should be tearing them down, because somebody may like that idea. Somebody may come to the space because of it. And somebody may find Hex and Pulse, and they're going to need Pulse because that's what they're transacting in. I just think the more we open up the doors, knowing what we know. So Richard's done a great job of educating us on what real crypto is, right? No admin keys, contracts audited and locked, immutable code, things like that we know the basics of what we're looking for, not to fall for stupid meme coins and the pump and dumps and the reflection tokens and things like that. We know what we're looking for, but it doesn't mean that all these people shouldn't be coming over to PulseChain, because eventually, we're going to need that. We need that ecosystem, and we need some of those people, the new people, to get eyes on what we've learned and to teach them what this stuff is, what Hex is the real store of value. And I think it's going to take that, because all of these new things, we can't establish it with the people that we have. Obviously, we can't support everything. It needs new people, just like any market, just like any company. You can't have the same people just trading stocks. It's not going to work. Right. Nothing ever appreciates or does much. So I think that's where we're at. And I think it's a tough spot to be in, because like I said, Richard's saying, go build this. And then the people that are Richard Hart Maxis are saying, well, Richard didn't build it, so we're not going to support it. It's a tough dilemma for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. And a weird reaction too. I mean, like, I understand, I don't think there's any problem at all. I mean, you can't tell anybody how to invest. It's their dollars, right. Do whatever the hell you want to do. But I would totally understand wanting the overwhelming majority of your portfolio in the Richard Hart stuff. If there's anything else in crypto that you very much, trust and are invested in outside of that ecosystem that you want to do, whatever. But yeah, I mean, like people that are creating good products, I mean, like most people are on board with Hedron and Icosa and think what Alex is doing is awesome. I think he's really been the premier guy so far. I know a lot of people obviously love the fuck stuff, all the pH stuff, which I'll be honest, I haven't looked into as much, but I know like that's right up there as well so far. And there's going to be more to be built. And let me ask you this, Ewok, if you putting you on the spot out of some of the things that Richard mentioned here and looking at some of the comments, I think I might know where you go with this, but I mean, what are you most focused on, or what addition would you like the most, whether it's something that people are already working on or something that he mentioned there? What would you be most excited about?
Well, I do want another wallet. What I would really like to see is someone create and some nodes that weren't Infura. Some centralized Ethereum nodes that the community, even if it was a subscription type thing where you could connect to it with without the extra nonsense. That's what I'd like to see. I'm looking forward to liquid loans. I think it's going to be a positive impact to sell pressure. I think people aren't going to have to sell. Now they may get liquidated, but again, they're not going to have to sell. So right. I think that'll be positive. The stable coins is definitely, we need the on-ramps though. You've got to make it closer. If you want this ecosystem, to thrive, you've got to have the on-ramps closest to the product. Right now we've talked about it, and the only on-ramps that we really have are on the Ethereum side. And that's why I'm really surprised that the EHEX price is down. Because it is closer for people to buy there. It is what it is, but that's what we need. I think the wallet, the on-ramps, liquid loans, the stable coins, those are the things that I'm most excited about, and I think will bring a lot of adoption. They may be small, but I think they're super important.
I totally agree. And I was trying to lead you to the on-ramp thing. Yeah, I agree with you with the wallet as well. That would be super interesting. But let's dip into the Coast thing a little bit more, because that's really been the on-ramp that's been clamored for the most. They are talking, and if you don't follow them on X, it is actually at 0x Coast. But yeah, they've been tweeting a lot about things seem imminent here. And you mentioned actually, Ewok, about it being the first native fiat-backed stablecoin. CST is actually what the coin would be. Tell me a little bit about, first off, how close do you think that they are? Because they've really been tweeting a lot of updates. They actually just an hour ago said that they'll be having multiple phases to their launch. Each phase will build on a feature set and work towards the final product. We think you'll enjoy the new DApp. It's even smoother than our prior beta release. So coming soon to PulseChain. So, I mean, it does seem like they're very, very close. What do you make of this? What do you think it will really do for the ecosystem here?
Oh, how can it not be positive? You buy directly into Pulse. Yeah. It's awesome. You asked how long. I think a couple weeks, probably. 4 more weeks.
2 more weeks. Yeah.
2 more weeks. 4 more weeks. The famous last words.
Yeah.
But I do think because of the way they're ramping up their tweets and their language, I do think it's a lot closer than that, maybe, So I'm excited. I like the fact that, and don't forget, we talked about this before. At this point in time, if you hold 100,000 of the weight token that they had, you can get all the way down to a 1% fee just by locking up those tokens. That'll cost you $60. And $60 to save you from 1% to 4% is quite a lot if you're going to be, investing some money here in the future. So I think $60 is definitely worth it to buy those tokens, lock them up in their platform, and then save 3% on the onboarding, onboarding cost. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. Those guys have done good things. They're both smart. I've listened to them on stream, and they're so well versed and spoken, and they know what's going on. They did a lot of homework to get this done, and it was such a disappointment to see, the first bank thing kind of fall through. So yeah, hopefully this one is much more solid. and it's looking like it's pretty close. So, and Johnny asked, is weight on the Pulse side or is it only on ETH? Well, I believe there was a copy.
I would imagine there would be. Let me check here.
Well, I'm on Dex Screener now too, and I just looked and it was like 0.0006, and that is paired with Hex. So you may have to buy a little bit of Hex and swap it for the weight token. Now that's on Uniswap. Let's take a look and see if the weight token is over there too. I think it might be on both, but yeah, it is on both.
Yeah, I thought so.
So I know when you claimed it, you claimed it on ETH, and then I remember that you had to exchange them for the version 2 token, but I'm not sure which one you locked up. I don't remember, because I did it. I locked the 100,000 up in the platform to save it, and then, like I said, that was during the beta thing, and then the bank thing fell through, and I was like, oh shit, well, I'll just leave it there.
Right.
So I think I'm not sure. Good question, Johnny. We'll look into that and find out.
Yeah, I believe it is on PulseChain as well. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that does work, and the direct on ramp as well. Yeah, I think that's one of the major tools that, as we do get into this, as more retail comes in and as the market comes back, obviously that's going to be a huge necessity. And it's all about making these things easier. People not having to worry about bridging and things like that. The less steps to get into DeFi, and this isn't a problem unique to PulseChain or anything like that, but the less steps to get into DeFi, the better for people that don't understand this stuff yet, So
yeah, I'm pretty certain it was the ETH version, because that was the original that you switched over to V2. But I will confirm that for sure, because Johnny's right. It is important to figure out which one to buy for the fee reduction. So
right.
I'm pretty sure it was the one on Ethereum chain.
Yeah, because whenever this actually started, PulseChain hadn't even launched yet or anything.
It hadn't. No.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is that one. So, and they do tweet about it. Like Coast is really communicative. I just saw they posted something about weight the other day. So I'm sure if you just kind of search their tweets and look at that too, there's more information to be gleaned. So, let's talk about a couple ecosystem things that have happened the last couple of days that are really interesting and really cool, actually, one of which is being hopefully finalized right now. But first off, I know everybody's kind of talking about this thing that Gary Funding Jim did the other day by creating a whole bunch of PRC20 tokens, which you can do very easily at go.pulse. Actually, there's a link right there if you go on the site to do it. But I want to ask you, Ewok, and a lot has been made about it. I heard Gary even say it himself. Like, a lot of people were shitting on him about this. Like, what are you doing? Some people totally understood it and saw the purpose of it. Some people are just totally confused. So if somehow you hadn't heard about this yet and you're within the ecosystem, he basically made a bunch of meme coins, whatever you want to call them, one dedicated to like 29 different people within the Hex ecosystem, people that stream, whatever. Why do you think he did this, Ewok? And what do you think Gary was trying to demonstrate by doing this?
Well, it's definitely an educational type thing. I think the purpose of it was to show how easy it is, number one, to create tokens. Number two, he only added like $10 worth of liquidity on each side. So the other thing was, how can a low liquidity token run so fast? I saw some of them were like $80, $90 a piece. Well, that happens when there's very, very low liquidity. It doesn't take much to jack the prices up. Also, the proceeds were to be rug pulled on January 1st, I think he said. So, and then that was going to be donated back to either that person or I forget what he was doing with it. I only caught part of the stream. It was I had something else come up that I had to.
Well, he was on for like 2 hours that night.
Yeah,
it was on for a long time.
It was. But so again, it's all educational. I think it's also to show how meaningless the market cap number is, because some of
Hmm.
these were worth billions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
All these tokens, and there weren't that many of them out there. So, I think there again, it was a whole bunch of education, like how easy it is to create a coin. So be careful. Um, how low liquidity really affects things, and how market cap is just a vanity number that we really shouldn't pay attention to. So I think he kind of achieved all three of those in one fell swoop. And it was a weird experiment. I'm sure it cost him some gas to do it.
Right.
Um, and I had seen a lot of tweets from these people say, "Hey, I didn't do this, by the way. Don't support it. This isn't me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I don't want you to get wrecked, because it could very well." And that was the only thing that worried me, is some people thinking that person created it and were supporting it, and they were going to jump on the coattails of whoever. Um, yeah, and John, I did see that Sami's got up in the thousands, but I don't know
What
if
did
it's still.
Furu's get to? Does Furu have one?
I don't know. I
Okay.
didn't look, and I don't think he probably got one.
Well,
So
I'll DCA into it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's a neat experiment. Again, it does prove a lot of things that we talk about. But again, I would don't invest in any of these, because one one sale could just wreck you. So just be very
Yeah.
careful.
It is definitely a good thought experiment. Yeah, and I think it was good to show the meaningless of market cap. Yeah, so I understand why Gary did it. He was on with Maddie again then the other night talking about it as well. So Gary really has been, I mean, one of the biggest, kind of bridges himself, to other communities with Hex and the PulseChain ecosystem. So kudos to him to still putting stuff out there for sure. And speaking of bridges, so this is something that was awesome that kind of came together the last couple of days. So I saw them first talking about this last week. I think Westcott at first was talking about this, and then Sami kind of got onto it too. So they kind of tag teamed this one, and Westcott and Sami got a wallet together. I think it's Westcott's who really cares at this point, but basically just decided, hey, $5,000 is what it costs to get the trailer. I'm not totally clear on this. I'm not sure. I guess it's just a trailer. I don't know if I guess the feature film can't get on this platform, but it's called WorldStar. There's all kinds of different creators and things like that on there. I guess there's 40 million users on it. I've never even used it or actually heard of it before this.
Nor
But
have I.
yeah, but there's an audience there basically, and it's a $5,000 fee to get yourself on the platform. I'm sure there's way better ways of explaining it than I'm doing right here, but either way, kudos to those guys for getting together, creating a wallet, and just asking for a $10 donation from 500 people. I'm sure it didn't exactly end up being like that, but they raised it in under 24 hours. And I just saw Westcott posted a little bit ago that they already submitted the trailer to the platform. So now it's just awaiting some kind of approval process or whatever. So basically, and again, I should look into how WorldStar works a little bit. Matter of fact, if anybody in the chat knows anything about it and wants to contribute, let us know, because I don't know how their model works. But basically, getting the highest of stakes documentary on there in front of a lot more people. Just another thing, Ewok, that I know you have seen over the years since the creation of Hex, of a grassroots community thing coming together literally in less than 24 hours. I saw Sami just tweeted, think about how expensive it was to get a NASCAR sponsorship or some of the soccer or football teams out there before. And then this just costing $5,000 from a whole bunch of people combined.
Yeah.
But what do you make of it? Yeah, this kind of ingenuity.
It's pretty cool. I think it's a great idea. It's very inexpensive, and 40 million people watching or seeing it, getting new eyes on it. It can't be that bad for that much money. I think, you brought it up yourself, the NASCAR thing. We raised $600,000 in 5 days. Now that was a different market. Things were a lot better. People had the money to kind of throw around at that point, but that this community is awesome. When they put their mind to something and they want to do something, It's amazing how many people pull together and take care of it. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a cool thing. Um, at the same time, I know there is also a marketing wallet as well, that Kinetics and those guys are doing for the highest of stakes. It's going to help with some merchandising and some other just getting the word out there. I don't know exactly what it goes for. Look at Kinetics's last couple posts. They have that marketing wallet out there as well. So yeah, I mean, the more eyes, the better, right? I mean, we're getting to that point now where, like I said, we need new people. We need to get more eyes on this, and not in a bad way. People always say that. Well, that's how Ponzi's work. You can't do anything if there's no new people. But in order for anything to survive and go on, you need a bigger community. We've expanded the things that we have so much that we do need new community. We need a bigger community if we really want to take this, by storm. So I think it's an awesome deal. There was another guy too, Bars Beast, or I forget what his actual Twitter handle is.
Yeah, he had
he
I think he had a GoFundMe or something.
Yep, and then he had received some money and then sent that over to Westcott as well. So that was part of the money that was raised. So yeah, pretty cool. I thought it was a great little fundraiser. Not expensive at all. Like you said, if 500 people put $10 in, I'm sure I saw the wallet and I saw there was a couple bigger donations. So
right.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It is awesome. And actually following up on that, you sent me the news about like how much it even expanded. So we already knew that the highest of stakes, which is premiering in all those cities August 4th and the 5th, and a few of them had already been extended to the following weekend because of the demand at Regal theaters to the I guess it'd be the 11th and 12th. So that's happening at 22 cities or so at last check. I mean, I can't remember how many cities it is in total, but I mean, that's got to be about half of the total cities or so, right?
I think it's more than half. There's a few that haven't sold out yet, but a lot of them have sold out both days. There were, I forget what it was. I think 20. Yeah, I think there were 20 some markets anyway that extended into the next weekend. So yeah, fantastic. It's great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to garner a lot of attention. And again, caution to a lot of people that think there's going to be some major pump just heading into this or anything like that. No. I would not expect anything like that. It's more of a, as retail comes back, all these things just require patience, which a lot of the newer investors in this ecosystem are the ones that are mainly new into Pulse and didn't know about Hex prior to this. Don't seem to have the most patience right now. So we'll see how it goes with this one. There we go. Bryce going to get his orb.
Yeah. So I think the big thing, Johnny said 22 more markets. I think the big thing that we have to keep in mind is mostly these theater things are going to be hexagons and their friends. But the good thing about this is the more markets that sell out, the better it is for these platforms that actually pick up the streaming part of it. I think it's not, we're not going to see a major pump coming out of the theater release. That will happen once, we get some major eyes on it. But again, in order to get that platform, the streaming platform, to take this on, we needed all of these to sell out and then some. So, it's just one little hurdle that we've got to get over in order for the world to actually see it. So,
yeah, and ultimately, I mean, it's great that it is in theaters, obviously, but I just would be fantastic to actually have it on a streaming service. So I think that's kind of their long game goal as well. And I saw today, the actual account, the official highest of stakes account tweeted that Richard sent them some kind of video. Did you see that today? They didn't show it or anything, but he sent them some kind of clip. Let me actually look.
Yeah, I did. I saw that he it was to be played at the premiere, which I think is the Miami one. or maybe the LA one. I don't know. I forget which one is the actual premiere. But somebody had recommended that, hey, can we see it at some of the other ones too? Is that okay? And they said they would have to reach out to Richard to confirm, and they would circle back. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh yeah, I see that. Yep, I see that tweet right now. So yeah, that'll be interesting as well. So yeah, lots of good stuff coming. Remember, I mean, even though things seem depressing right now, that's the whole reason to buy. I mean, there's just not the people aren't here yet. By the time they're here, it's going to be, as we've already said, things are going to be moving very, very quickly, and you're not going to be getting as many coins for your buck. So this is when to be paying attention.
yeah.
I want to ask you this, Ewok. So this is kind of a more philosophical thing. Within the hex ecosystem, and something, it's not quite the E hex P hex ratio or anything like that. But I heard, I've been watching more and more here and there. Corey Geary and Money Talks with Dane, they seem to stream together maybe at least once or twice a week. And they were talking about the idea of hex on PulseChain, whether it could perform or should be looked at, or it doesn't matter what it should be looked at, I guess. But will it perform like a first cycle coin or a second cycle coin? Because obviously it is hex. Hex originated on Ethereum, but this is a brand new chart also. The actual hex on PulseChain chart is a new chart. There's no other history to go back and look at. So what do you make of that? I mean, I think it's an interest. I don't know how much it matters, I guess, for us. If you're in it, you're going to be buying it anyway. Who really cares? But what do you think? I mean, because there will be people that are new to hex, this is going to be a whole new chart for them. Could it perform like a first? Maybe that's why we'll start to see even more of an extended ratio. I mean, I still think they're going to move together and get closer. But what do you think? I mean, what could that do to hex on Pulse? Do you think it performs like a first cycle token, which could mean crazy gains compared to what some people may be thinking?
So good question. I think it will act like well, there's a lot of free tokens that were given out.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. A lot of people just got free copies. So will they be treated like free coins? I don't think so. But I don't think it's going to have a first cycle chart either. It's going to be a mix of the two. I don't know. Good question. It's going to be an interesting experiment. It's not going to 10,000x, I don't think, in this cycle. Although, there is the possibility depending on the liquidity. But I think having the start from the bottom is what really propelled Hex on Ethereum to have the chart that it did. I think you'll definitely tell it's a second cycle coin by the chart. And it's not going to be near as impressive. It's going to be one of those things where, we always tell people, well, you got to look at the V1 chart to see the whole thing, because even the V2 chart isn't accurate, because it only has so much data. It's going to be something very similar to that, where you're going to have to look at everything, kind of put them together in a, how you can view multiple charts on the same screen. Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be like a first cycle type coin where you're going to see the massive run-ups either. It's going to do well. I think we're going to do very well in this cycle, especially once all this stuff happens. I don't know how it will perform with all the stuff being free that was given out, the free copies. If people will value it more, obviously some people do value it more because they sold their EHEX to get the PX, right? So it's going to be an interesting experiment for sure.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah,
what do you think it's going to do? Like
I think I would have to decide, if I was looking at both, that it would perform like a second cycle, because, people, even if they are new to Hex, they would still see the history of it, I think, by looking into it, see the PulseChain split and stuff like that. So I would have to think that. And then, I guess inevitably it does get you back to the question of the ratio. I saw the other day people were talking about, and I don't know where this originated from or who said it, but about the ratio of the two hexes potentially getting to as high as 10 to 1 at some point. I don't really know where that originated or why that would happen. I mean, I just can't really envision that. I forget who said it or what the talking points actually were. But that's the crazy thing about this is all of this stuff is, new. Like we haven't actually seen a fork exactly like this before, and seen the asset actually copied over like this, and an entire system state of Ethereum actually copied over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going to be crazy, I think, just to see what actually performs how here. I had another point about this that I am now rambling and forget what it was. But yeah, we just have to have more people get back into this market. That's the big thing. And, I know what I was going to say. We were alluding earlier in the show to people getting back to the idea of yield, getting back and realizing the idea of how great Hex is and everything, the shiny new toy syndrome wearing off from PulseChain and PulseX. When do you think, we can say that till we're blue in the face? Like you and I obviously are major fans of Hex and earn yield on it. Johnny and Briz in the chat tonight obviously are. We're seeing a lot of like Hex old heads like Crispy Man and Matty Allen. Like everybody's talking about that, and they're right because they've been around and they've seen it and everything. Johnny and Matty were saying the other night that they wouldn't even be here if they weren't staked. Like they wouldn't have what they have right now and they wouldn't even be here. So when, if ever, I guess, I mean, I think it will happen, but when will these noobs, for lack of a better term, not trying to hate on anybody, just using it affectionately, but like when will the newer people come back to that, do you think? I totally understand everybody wanting to clamor and buy Pulse and PulseX right now. I totally do get that. But to me, to not have whatever you have in those two tokens equal in your Hex bags, if not more for the T shares, and more importantly, having the T shares.
Yep.
I think you'd be making a mistake. So when will people realize the yield available with Hex? And I'm not even saying that they have to be like a 15, 5555 max stake person or anything like that. But when do you think that the interest gets back into that whenever we start going down again? And people are like, man, I wish I had yield during this time. I mean,
well,
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to take a bunch of green candles for people to FOMO back in, because that's how they do it. The idiots that are selling right now, I don't get it. I hate to say that, but the people that are selling right now, they're not going to make it. They need to be flushed out. Maybe they'll buy back in later, maybe they won't, but that's what it's going to take again, are some green candles for people to get excited. They always, seem to flock in as the price gets higher. And yeah, Johnny said it. They chase pumps. They always do. They always have. Nothing has changed. They'll buy the top again and sell the bottom of the next cycle. It's just, people have to get wrecked in order to learn the lessons. And the ones that were here last cycle, maybe they will learn that again and figure it all out. It is a learning process, and that's why some of us are much more calm during bear markets than others that are freaking out and the sky's falling kind of thing. So it's time. It all takes time. I think the markets, we don't know. The uncertainty of the regular traditional markets are definitely going to play a part in this. So it all has to play out. And unfortunately, like I said, this cycle could be a lot longer. The downturn could be a lot longer than normal. So.
Yeah, I think so too. People are going to come back to it. It just is going to take time. It'll be fascinating, I think, to see the newer investors as they do come into this market again. Yeah. Seems like it's so far away, but it's going to be here eventually. I mean, it's probably going to be in another calendar year. But hey, we still have some bullish things that could happen by the end of this year. There's going to be more innovation. And as long as this time seems right now, it's been, 10 weeks or so, almost on the nose, actually, since PulseChain launched. There's going to be a time where this seems like a blip on the radar, and you don't want to regret it and having wasted your time during this time. I mean, even though Pulse is up off the lows right now, PulseX is too. They barely are. You're still basically buying the lows right now,
pretty much.
So, they're both.
And this is the time to do it. This is the time to be making those gains. Is slow and steady. We always go back to that video that Coffee had done If you had bought $100, what was it, every week or every
Yeah.
religiously, you would still be a millionaire.
Hmm.
Even if you bought the whole way up and the whole way back down. So, now's when you take the opportunity to get these prices that you may never see again. When Hex did its best the last time, there were a lot of people locked up. People will start to see that, and it's education. It definitely is teaching the people, teaching your onboards. This is how you yield. And as the more Hex gets locked up, the less is available for sale. That can really just take the price and just shoot it through the roof. I mean, it doesn't take much, especially when things start to get locked up and not available for sale anymore.
Yeah. And even if, if you are newer to Hex and the idea of staking out long term freaks you out, or you've seen all this volatility in crypto over the course of the last 2 years, you don't necessarily have to do that. I mean, if you have a bag big enough that even just staking for the next calendar year or two, if you think that this bull cycle could, go until then, if it gets you at least a T share anyway, I mean, you would want to shoot for as many as you can get. You might as well do that. I mean, there's plenty of great Hex calculators out there where you can see how much Hex you can earn within that time. And that's a solace to a lot of people, honestly, right now, because, you've DCA'd and DCA'd and DCA'd, and the price just keeps staying stagnant, and you run out of money to DCA with. At some point, it's like, how can I do this if I don't have any more money to do it? Well, if you're yielding on Hex, and not emergency and staking it to participate in like a temporary liquidity pool or something like that, you're DCAing into that every single day. So, and remember, other things are out there as well. It sounds like single-sided staking on PulseX isn't necessarily a priority for Richard Hart, but it sounds like that's coming eventually too. So just get into the market however you can. I think that's pretty much more of the story right now. You got anything else there, Ewok? I hear something on your back end there.
Yeah, I was going to just share this
that coffee video.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. It's good to have messages like that right now. There we go. Oh, cool. Johnny, I think, put it in.
Yeah, Johnny pinned it, and he sent it to he private messaged me. And
oh, there we go. Sweet. I got you. Okay. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover there, Ewok?
I don't think so. Just keep chugging ahead. Dollar cost average. This is the time. This is the time where it really makes a difference down the road. Get your average cost down. Or if it's already down there, just accumulate on top of it. This is where I see the people complaining. They're the ones that have refused to buy as the price got lower, and they're just watching their account dwindle instead of fixing, the average buy-in price because they ended up buying the top. So, this is the time you can either turn your portfolio completely around for the next cycle or light it on fire and just get rid of it. Because I saw somebody here earlier comment that, I regret ever buying Hex or Pulse.
Saw that too.
Yeah. Sorry, you're having a bad time, but you must not be doing this the right way. If you bought it high, which a lot of people did, that means you're not really fixing your situation. You're just kind of wallowing in your own problems instead of fixing it. So I don't know. I don't feel. I hate to see people buy tops. I do, but what we can do is educate them on how to fix that dollar cost average on the way down, so that the next cycle they're in much better shape, and they only have to wait until 8 or 10 cents before they're in profit, rather than wait until 40 cents, because that's a long wait. And then when you get there, who's to say how much further it goes? I mean, obviously, we're going to get back to all-time highs. When, we don't know. So, you're at least looking at a 50x. For EHEX, you're looking at a 25x for PHEX. Take your average cost down and help yourself out so that you're in much better shape for the next one. So that's what I got.
Yeah, Khalid, if you French fry when you need a pizza, you're gonna have a bad time. Just remember that from South Park, obviously, like Ewok said. So, I think that'll wrap us up for tonight. There's a good show. A lot of stuff to talk about. Lots of New World Order stuff happening right now. Are you buying WorldCoin? We shall see. Go get your orb. Get your eyes fixed or whatever it is you need to do to get your tokens and your airdrop and get blood taken or whatever it is. We will be
retinas
back.
and your butthole scanned.
That's
Look
right.
out.
Get them both scanned with the Bankless boys. We will be back next Wednesday. That's going to be August the 1st, I want to say. August the 2nd, actually, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do this every single Wednesday night. If you guys are still here on your way out, smash a like. We very much appreciate it. Love the audience here. You guys have been way more active the last few weeks, growing a little bit more of an audience. So as this market picks back up, we're excited to have more fun with everybody, and we really appreciate all the support. So, for Ewok, this has been Boi Crypto. We'll catch you guys next week right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast.